Hello and welcome to my review of the Vanguard Space Marines Infiltrator Squad. Currently the only way to get these models is through the Shadowspear box set from Games Workshop, and that will set you back £105. What I'll do is I'll go through each of these models, well most of them at least, and then look at their detail and things. Then I will do some size comparisons and then go through all of their rules, which you get in the mini codex in the Shadowspear box set itself. So there are 10 here. It says in the codex that the unit contains 1 infiltrator sergeant and 4 infiltrators, and it can include up to 4 additional infiltrators and an infiltrator helix adept. So that then counts as sort of 1 unit if you've then got 10, but you could have, you know, a sergeant and 4 infiltrators and then another sergeant and 4 infiltrators if you want to have it that way, two kind of sergeant and the infiltrators themselves. So let's have a look at the models. Let's start off with the coolest looking model out of all of them, which in my opinion is this guy right here. It's absolutely amazing. I love this action pose. Games Workshop have sculpted him so that he's tossing this grenade with the pin deployed. The smoke is bubbling out, and they've actually kind of glued or modelled the smoke onto his thumb, so it looks like the grenade is in mid throw. Really cool looking pose. The rest of it is quite, well, it's all right. I mean, this is Phobos armor at the end of the day, so there's something not right with it in my opinion. The leg armor looks a bit odd. You've got this big gap here in the torso. The power plant looks the same as sort of normal, but you've got all these gaps missing in the armor, except for the arms, I'd say. The helmets look quite cool, but you know, with these infiltrators, they've done away with the Reaver sort of skull masks, which I thought was one of the best parts of the Phobos armor. I also liked how many pouches and things the Reavers had. The infiltrators do look like they've got a fair few accessories, but anyway, another thing I do like is the bolt carbines, but I prefer them when they have a bit more of a barrel like the captain does, and I think the lieutenant. Anyway, this is one of the coolest models in this set of 10. Now that that one's out of the way, we'll look at a few others. So I think this guy is the sergeant, I want to say. He's on a bit of a scenic base. He's adjusting his antenna, maybe receiving a transmission. He's got a couple of grenades, a pouch, and then some kind of special medallion thing there, so that's quite cool. Then I think you've got the helix adept, I want to say, which may well be this one. This is the healer. He's got this injector, he's doing something on his bolt gun, maybe polishing it, but he's got some vials, and I think that, then he's got his first aid kit too, so that makes you a helix adept with that. Oh, a little sort of light on your helmet too. Then we've got this guy, which again I think must be another sergeant. So you could have them with, you know, this sergeant and you could have 4 of them and this sergeant with 4 of them, or you could just have this guy as the sergeant. It's really up to you which way you want to play that in terms of models, or you can just have them in a squad of 10 like I have. So yeah, this guy here, you could classify him as a sergeant if you really wanted to. He's got his little you know, keyboard out, about to send a little text message, probably a few emojis, you know, about to raid the enemy's base, lol, I don't know. Anyway, then after those kind of unique models, we're then left with the 3 twins. So there's 6 models of these, which look exactly the same, and I'll put them in their twin orders. So yes, unfortunately, unlike the Chaos Space Marines in the set, which don't have any twins, any duplicates, for some reason the Primaris, they have 5 sets of twins. A set of twins in the Eliminators, 3 sets of twins in this Infiltrator squad, and a set of twins in the Suppressors. So you've got 5 sets of twins overall in the Primaris force, which is quite a lot in a force consistent of 18 models, almost a third of the models being duplicates, which definitely takes its toll, and you can easily see too. Now with these models, I've tried to angle their head a little bit differently, but they still look very, very similar. And it's the pose and the legs, I mean, very, very similar. Aiming their bolt carbines there. These two, I've changed their head a little bit, so one's facing forward and one's sort of straining up, looking up. That's not that, you know, I mean, if you had them a different part in the squad, that's not too bad. You know, you can have them separate. And then these two, I've put, aiming their pistols, these two I've put one with his head slightly down and one just normal. But again, these two look, well, exactly the same, but it's still quite a cool little pose that they've got going on, aiming their pistols with two hands. Not sure why. They're Space Marines at the end of the day. They definitely don't need that extra help with that Phobos power armor. They're all the models themselves. I'm not a big fan of the Phobos armor because of the abdomen and the you know, the lack of another shoulder pauldron. I like the power plants are fine and the weapons are fine and the helmets are okay, but everything else I think is a bit odd looking. I don't like the fact that you get 3 twins in this. I think they all should have been individual with individual poses. If you can do it with the Chaos Space Marines, surely you can do it for the poster child of Warhammer 40,000, the Space Marines. Anyway, let me show you some size comparisons. Okay, so I'm shooting on a different day in different lighting. That's just the way sometimes these reviews go, but let's carry on. So I wanted to do some size comparisons with other models. First of all, let's compare them to some of the models in the box set itself. So a model, first of all, which is quite similar, would be the Lieutenant. This guy here, you know, compared to the sergeant or whatever, they are essentially the same size. The lieutenant looks like he's big because he's got this bigger base, but height wise there's not much in it. The lieutenant obviously has these grav chute things going on. The captain here is, yeah, little bit taller, just a little bit, but he is on that scenery piece. The librarian has more bulk to him, but it's a little bit, it's a little bit taller. The power plant is a bit taller on there, but yeah, look, you can definitely see him. He's got a lot more presence there. The eliminators, they're a bit smaller, but they're on these bigger bases for some reason. But they are a heavy support choice after all. But yeah, they're a bit smaller, as you can see. But they work quite well, the aesthetics do. And then these goofy looking ones, the suppressors, they are, yeah, similar sort of size. You'd think that they'd be a bit bigger, but their armour does make them a bit bigger, especially with these grav chutes on their power plants. So yeah, I mean, the characters are a little bit bigger, just a tiny bit, but overall you're gonna see them very similarly sized. Comparing them to sort of other Space Marines, so you've got a Reaver here, which they're kind of almost sort of based on. The Reaver is actually, I mean, I don't know whether you can get a sort of taller pose, but the Reaver does look a tiny bit taller there than the Vanguard. But there you go, just for comparisons. You've got a normal standard Space Marine, which is, yeah, goes up to the shoulders of the Vanguard, and then finally the Intercessor, who is similarly sized. Should really be the same size as all of them. I mean, Intercessors will work quite well in this unit, you know, close by. So I've just compared them to all the sort of Imperium models, all the other Space Marines. Let's compare them to some Chaos models. So I've actually got a painted Death Guard model here, and as you can see, they are about the same size in a similar sort of pose. But of course, my brother here, this Plague Marine, is one-handing a bolt gun as opposed to this little infiltrator that's two-handing a pistol. Anyway, I thought that would be a good size comparison to show you how big these Death Guard Space Marines really are. Compared to a normal Chaos Space Marine from the new set, they are... the Chaos Space Marines they're taller than the old Space Marines by a little bit, but they're not quite as tall as the new Infiltrators. You can see that their knees are a little bit shorter, but the torsos are quite big, but their shoulders are slung lower. And then comparing them to other new models like the Dark Apostle, the review is coming out for all these Chaos models next week, by the way, including the Noctilith Crown. So yeah, that kind of works quite well. I know the Apostle isn't in the set, but yeah, that looks pretty good. That's all the size comparisons I wanted to make. You are now in my part of the review where I will go through all of their rules. You'll find them in your mini codex, the Vanguard Space Marine Codex. You get the codex with the Shadowspear box set. It's the only way to sort of get their rules at the moment until they put all of these Vanguard Space Marines in a new Space Marine Codex. You'll be pleased to know that they are actually a troops choice. They're the only troops choice in the set for Primaris. They're a power points cost of a 5 and a match play points cost of 22 per model. The Infiltrator Helix Adept is 32 points. The unit contains 1 Infiltrator Sergeant and 4 Infiltrators. It can include up to 4 additional Infiltrators and an Infiltrator Helix Adept. Each model is armed with a Marksman Bolt Carbine, Bolt Pistol, Frag Grenades and Crack Grenades. So the Infiltrators themselves then, they are a movement of 6 inches, weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 4, toughness 4, 2 wounds, 2 attacks, leadership 7 and a save of 3+. Flipping through my Space Marine Codex, it highlights to me that they have exactly the same stat line. You know, same movement, same attacks, all those kind of things, same wounds, all those kind of things. The Infiltrator Helix Adept has exactly the same stat line, you know, same leadership and all the rest of it, but the Sergeant has 3 attacks and a leadership of 8, so the same stat line as a normal Intercessor Sergeant. It's also worth noting that power points cost wise, the Intercessor squad is the same power points cost as this Infiltrator squad. Okay, so what are they armed with? Well, they're armed with those bolt pistols, which are a 12-inch range weapon, pistol 1, strength 4, AP 0 and a damage of 1. But then they're armed with these Marksman Bolt Carbines, which are a range 24 inches, rapid fire 1, strength 4, AP 0, damage 1. Each unmodified hit roll of 6 made for this weapon's attacks automatically hits and results in a wound. Do not make a wound roll for that attack. That's pretty decent. So you get 6s for hits and they all already get that wound. You don't need to roll to wound. That's pretty fantastic. That's why you'd use them. Comparing them to the Reaver squad, bolt carbines, well, their bolt carbines are the same range, but they're assault 2, but that's it. They don't get any other special rules other than they've got 2 shots with them. Whereas these marksman bolt carbines, yes, they're rapid fire 1, but you know, on those 6s, you get those automatic wounds. Your frag grenades and crack grenades are as normal, so the frag grenades at 6-inch range, grenade D6, strength 3, AP 0 and damage 1, and the crack grenades are again 6-inch range, grenade 1, strength 6, AP -1 and a damage of D3. Abilities then, and they shall know no fear. They have combat squads, same as normal, which is before any models are deployed at the start of the battle, an infiltrator squad containing 10 models can be split into 2 units, each containing 5 models. Concealed positions. This is something that Reaver squads don't actually have, but the Eliminator squad does have concealed positions, so does the Captain and the Librarian, but the Lieutenant doesn't. And concealed positions means that when you set up this unit during deployment, it can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from enemy deployment zone and any enemy models. Pretty good. Omni Scramblers. Enemy units that are set up on the battlefield as reinforcements cannot be set up within 12 inches of this unit. So the Omni Scramblers basically is exactly the same as the Captain's Omni Scrambler. So they can't be set up within 12 inches of the unit, but you can set them up within 9 inches of enemy units, if that all makes sense. Helix Adept. At the end of your movement phase, an Infiltrator Helix Adept can attempt to heal or revive one model from this unit. Heal or revive. That's the important thing here. It can revive a model. So you're getting 2 wounds for the price of 1, in a way. If the Infiltrator Helix Adept's unit contains a wounded model, that model regains 1 lost wound. If its unit contains no wounded models, but 1 or more of its models have been slain during the battle, roll a d6. On a 5+, 1 slain model is returned to the unit with 1 wound remaining. Oh, okay, sorry, so you only get one wound then, sorry. If the Infiltrator Helix Adept fails to revive a model, he cannot shoot in your next shooting phase as he recovers the gene seed of the fallen warrior. That makes sense, and I wish that I'd seen more of this, you know, back in the early days of sort of medics and, you know, reviving models, things like that. Finally, smoke grenades. Once per battle, instead of shooting any weapons in the shooting phase, this unit can use its smoke grenades until your next shooting phase, and your opponent must subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with ranged weapons that target this unit. Pretty good. So you can use those smoke grenades as well. And they just have that as an ability. They don't have it as a weapon item or anything like that. And it kind of makes sense because this guy is tossing this smoke grenade there. Keywords: Imperium, Adeptus Astartes, Infantry, Phobos, Primaris, Infiltrator Squad. So there you go. That's all the rules for the Infiltrator Squad. I think they're pretty decent. Yeah, if you want concealed positions for your Primaris, obviously these Vanguard Space Marines are the way to go forward. They can't jump on in with the grav shoots like the Suppressors or the Lieutenant. I mean, it's pretty cool that the Lieutenant can just grav shoot in, but you can have all of these other Vanguard Primaris Space Marines concealed, and then you can have your Lieutenant and your Suppressor grav shooting into the battlefield. Pretty decent. They're quite vanilla in a way that their Marksman Bolt Carbine, you know, it's just a fancy bolt gun at the end of the day that wounds on 6s, doesn't have rending or anything like that. I get the feeling that most of these Vanguard sort of Primaris Space Marines are there to, you know, capture objectives rather than, you know, really defeat your opponent in combat or in range. That's the feeling I get with these units. Anyway, what do you guys think of the models? I thought it was a bit of a letdown that we got 3 twins, and I'm not a huge fan of the Phobos armor. I think these and the Suppressors are definitely sort of, I say, the worst looking kits in the set. And of course, I much prefer all of the Chaos Space Marine models that they released in the set instead. What do you guys think? Put it in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.